The question to be asked right now is whether Swaziland is drifting slowly or quickly drifting into a civil war. Because there are a lot of events that are happening in Swaziland that will really indicate that maybe the situation very soon or sooner than later will become worse and will escalate into a worse situation, which in this case might be a civil war. We are not very sure when, but this could be where it is all leading to a civil war. Because already there is the formation of the Swaziland Solidarity, International Solidarity Forces, which is an armed wing of the pro-democracy parties. It is fighting. It is causing a lot of destabilization. Maybe at the moment, we can just call it destabilization for that is what exactly it is. They are trying to destabilize Swaziland. And their destabilization of Swaziland is not out of sheer cruelty or sheer desire for destruction. It is a cry for attention from the king, from their king. They want their king to pay attention to their needs. But what does the king do? What is surprising, or what the question that is more pertinent at the moment is, why is the king ignoring all this? Why has the king remained almost aloof, like he's not seeing anything that is happening in his own country, like he's not the leader, like he's not the king of Swaziland? Why is he paying such a cold shoulder to situations that will be frightening, just to let it happen and just look and maybe just say nothing or do nothing about them? He's not even calling for dialogue. That's worse. Maybe the numbers of people who are dying are not enough for him. He really wants very large numbers of people to die before he can actually call for dialogue. Is he this kind of cruel? A leader who wants blood shed in his own country for him to start just talking? We are talking about talking here. We are talking about a dialogue where people would agree on certain things which are not right in Swaziland. He's not even calling for that. He hasn't shown any indications that he will call for that anytime very soon. People are just speculating on whether this was going to happen sooner or later. They are not even sure. But I think dialogue is what Swaziland would need at the moment. Swaziland would need a dialogue. And the dialogue is not very expensive. It just needs people who belong to Swaziland, the Swazis, to sit around a fire or to sit and talk. Because when the Swaziland Solidarity Forces are launching all this destabilization or these acts of sabotage, they are saying, King, please, there are issues that we want you to listen to and to address, because through a normal dialogue, through a normal request, through a petition, the king would not even listen to them. So these acts of sabotage are only carried out so that the king will give them attention, and he is not. So what we are seeing here is a king that is got a very thick skin, a king that doesn't care, a king that is insensitive and unconcerned to the needs of his own people. Because people are dying in Swaziland. Certainly people are dying. You might say maybe they are dying not in large numbers, but really a single life is more important than anything else. It's not worth it for just one person to die simply because people cannot talk. Is it worth really? What is it worth actually for people to sit around and talk about issues that really concerns their own state? So here I'm saying this only to blame the king. I blame the king 100% because I don't see any reason why a king who is really concerned, a king who is worried, a king who has got the heart of his own people in his heart, a king who is really empathetic and sympathetic to the needs of his own people, can just ignore something as important as a dialogue, which they called for a long time back when SADC came here, when Ramaphosa came in Swaziland to try and mediate between the two parties. So we see acts of violence where women are getting violated almost every day, are being desecrated, being physically assaulted almost on a daily basis. We see situations where very heavy transport is being burned down, and homes are being burned down in Swaziland, and people are dying in Swaziland. People are getting killed from both sides. People are getting killed, are getting slaughtered, and the king remains defiant. It's very shocking for a king to really be so silent on issues that should really be concerning any normal human being. You can't sleep, you can't go to sleep when you discover that your own people are killing each other because you are simply not talking to them. How really expensive is a dialogue? It's not a dialogue is not as expensive as the jets that is buying, as the aeroplanes that is buying. It's not as expensive as the other things that he might be buying right now. And yet he has remained very, very, very uncaring, he's not even concerned. It's a very sad state of affairs, because very soon what is going to happen is that Swaziland, if these things continue, Swaziland might drift into a civil war. And it will escalate, these issues might escalate into a civil war. Then once that happens, it will be very, very difficult to stop. You can't arrest the tide of developments when things start moving towards the development of, a civil war. And a civil war is the worst kind of thing. And I think Mswati should have thought about this. If he's a person who can sit and who does sit and digest in his mentality the issues that are happening in his own country, he must have really come to a situation where he should have thought about this and would have said, well, I might have my pride, but let me just sit around, let me call my people so that we can talk about these issues, so that not many people continue to, or situations really won't escalate into something worse, something which will be very, very difficult to stop. But he's not doing that, and this is a king that really surprised me. I don't think he was lucky just to become a king, but he doesn't have the integrity to be a king.